there we go. That's our little, in, prelude to what's coming. So I'm going to adjust my color here just a little bit while we're on. So good morning, Melissa. How are you this morning? You
Good
good?
morning. I feel good. I am blessed. Thank you so much.
I'm going to have a fun time with this interview today. We've had some power women come on my show these last few times for sure. It's been quite a journey on seeing how these young women are. I had Abigail on, I think last week. She's the one that's helping me do some writing, and
Oh,
I got to do some chatting with her. She's the one who helped me with my book, and she's awesome too. We just happen to have a really good connection, and I'd found out that if you listen to our podcast together, she was an officer in the jail, right? She was a that's why we have this law enforcement connection. I just had a good connection with her, so it was awesome. So it's been
oh,
great.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's been great. I got, so people don't know, this is Melissa Morales. I'm going to let her introduce herself just a little bit here in a second, but we got to do some chatting yesterday on the phone. And I apologize. I was at a jujitsu tournament and I was coaching, and in between the rounds, I was able to get on the phone with you real quick before we went live today. And so I'm looking forward to great chat yesterday. Good mom. And so I'm looking forward to what this is going to bring. So with that being said, Melissa, so why don't you go ahead, introduce yourself, where you're from, and then we'll get started. All right.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. And even a bigger thank you for picking up my phone call. I was in between of cooking dinner and making sure my son wasn't climbing on the ceiling. And I was like, I hope he answers. So thank you so incredibly much. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, it was great. So it's great. So tell everybody where you're from and how old your son is.
Yes, so I am from New Jersey, South Jersey to be exact, right outside of Philadelphia, no more than 15 minutes. And my son is 2 years old, just celebrated his birthday in April.
So you're in the twos. It's something I speak as you know, I have four children of my own, and I raised one another that we brought in when he was 12. And so, I've raised a total of five kids, and their stages, the 2-year-old stages, and they're all different. So I have three boys and a girl that I raised. Actually, four boys and a girl, but when my girl was 2 years old, I miss those times. Everybody said those were terrible twos, uh, but I had a good time with every season of the kids is something good, right? You celebrate when they
Yes.
get out of diapers, you celebrate when they're off bottles, and then you miss the times where they lay on your chest and or we watch TV. And my oldest son, I'll date this, but they all have their own stuff that they used to like to watch on TV, and his was Charlotte's Web. I must have watched Charlotte's Web 10 million times when he was a kid.
Oh,
That's how he went to bed, and so it was just kind of fun. So tell me, how do you like? Let's talk about motherhood. Was it a surprise, and what's it like, and how's that changed your life?
yes. So I'll start from the very beginning. It was a surprise. It was definitely a surprise. I'll never forget in July of 2019, I had asked God for something bigger than me. I was just ready for more. I was in my 30s, living on my own, traveling, just doing my thing, and had a good job. At this point, I was working in a law firm. So my life was smooth sailing, but I knew in my heart I wanted and needed more. I didn't know what that was. So as I'm journaling, I'm just saying, hey, God, it's me. What do you want for my next chapter going into 32? I was turning 32 within a few weeks from writing that journal entry. And I wasn't too specific for a baby. I said, God, if you want me to stop dating and just wait on a husband, okay. If you want me to save up for a house, I'll get out the apartment, okay. Do I switch careers and go back into media because I have previous experience in media? Whatever you want me to do, I am ready and open. If you just want me to travel, but again, I never asked for a baby. But God blessed me with a baby in August of 2019, I found out I was pregnant. Blew
Mhm.
me by surprise because I was not together with his father. We were just dating, casually dating. We were not in a relationship. So when I found out I was pregnant, I told him that it's okay for us not to be together because we're not together. And he said, "No, we're going to be a family. I want a family, and I'll, going to do right by you." And I said, "Okay, not a problem." I did a lot of partying in my 20s. So I really felt like this was God telling me, it's time for you to slow down. It's time for you to
Mm.
relax. And I was ready for that because I was done being selfish. Now, within that, I slept a lot, of course. For the first 3 months, I slept. It's so funny because I got nothing else going on but sleeping. So I didn't get morning sickness. I didn't get headaches. I wasn't overeating. I was just sleeping and I was healthy and I was good. In November of 2019, right before Thanksgiving, I found out that I needed a cerclage. So I went to an anatomy scan and my cervix was opening up. So
Mm.
my cervix was already dilating 2 centimeters at 19 weeks, going on 20 weeks. And they tell me, you need a cerclage. I'm like, what is a cerclage? And what does this mean? I'm healthy. There's nothing wrong with me. And the nurse says, okay, I'm going to take you into your doctor and he's going to tell you everything. So, okay. And the first thing he said was, has your back been hurting? I said, yes, but I just thought that was a normal pregnancy. Your feet swell, your back hurts, you're a little achy. And he says, no, that's the baby pushing down. And
Mm.
I said, wow, okay, what does this mean? And he says, I want you to go to the emergency room tonight to get what is called cerclage, which is the cervix, is a stitching of my cervix. I had to get done. So I got that
Mm.
done at 20 weeks and stayed in the hospital um, for about 2.5 weeks. We're now in December. December 4th, I got out of the hospital, and my doctor comes in and says, for the rest of your pregnancy, you are on bed rest.
So that's just the ironic side of life. You know what I mean?
Yes. So I said, okay, God, um, I asked for something bigger than me. This is not what I had in mind. And I was on bed rest. I was on strict bed rest from 20 weeks up to I gave birth. So I went to my doctor every single week to get my cervix checked to make sure it it wasn't dilating or opening it up. And the cervix, my stitch was still holding my cervix together. I had to take a pill which is called progesterone. I had to take that every single night until I gave birth. And then March
Mm.
comes and things get more exciting. I find myself talking to God again. At this point, I'm thinking, God is over me. He's like, your prayer requests are getting a little bit too much now. But March comes and the pandemic hits. We're in March of
Yeah.
2020. I'm not due to give birth until April 21st of 2020.
Mm.
The pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And I'm just in a ball of emotions. I didn't know what to feel, how to feel, because all I knew is what I saw and what I heard. So you're supposed to be happy. You're carrying in life, and it's supposed to be so much joy. And I really was, but because there was so much going on, I didn't know how to process it. This is the first time I've really been knocked down to my core, and I couldn't figure out why my son's fight had to be so tough from so early on.
Yeah.
And I
Those
just,
tough questions.
yes. So now we get into the end of March, and I go for my last cervix check before they can't check my cervix anymore. And the doctor calls me I'm at Target. We're grabbing baby stuff. And the doctor calls me and says, you have to get induced on Monday. This is a Friday. And I
Mm.
said, okay, is everything okay? They said, well, it looks like your placenta is drying out and has been drying out for a few weeks. That's why your son is not gaining no more than 5 pounds.
Ah, oh boy. That
So,
is
yeah, so it's a lot. It was a lot in a short amount of time. And within that, I got induced at 30, right at 37 weeks. And it was March 30th. And I was induced for 2 days, just waiting for this baby to come out. And he wasn't coming out. And they said, okay, well, we can't give you any more medicine. We're going to have to break your water. And I just kept praying. I said, God, okay, I know I'm annoying, but it's me. I do not want a March baby. Like, if you could give me anything, don't give me a March baby because March is so dull. I was looking forward to a April baby. And sure enough, this little bundle of joy came out crying, kicking, still hasn't stopped crying or kicking on April 1st at 12:56 a.m.
April 1st.
April 1st.
I'm a March baby.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm a March 29th baby, but it's totally
Oh,
me.
we get right there.
That's I had never heard it been like that where it's like it's so dull I don't want him in March. I was like, huh, that's a new that's a new that's new. That's funny. So tell me one thing about tell me what it was like to have a baby in the pandemic. What was that like in the
It was
hospital?
scary. It was scary. Because at first they wouldn't allow my son's father to come in the room, and they said no. And then the restrictions had like the hospitals had like lessened the restrictions here in New Jersey a little bit. And they said, okay, well, only one family member can come in. So I had no family there other than him, which is all I really needed. And he couldn't leave the room. He stayed in the room for the 2.5 days. Didn't
Uh,
leave. The nurses had to come and bring anything that he wanted, something to drink, something to eat. We had to wear a mask. I mean, we still wear a mask now, but we had to wear a mask like from the moment of going into the room to leaving the hospital, which was a few days later. But it
yeah,
was scary.
I hadn't got to talk to anybody that went through a pregnancy, in the hospital because I know that they just shut it down. Isn't it funny? Back in, I remember when my sister being born, right? They didn't even allowed you in the room back in those days. You weren't even allowed. Dads
Oh my
couldn't even
goodness.
come in. Can you imagine that? Right? So,
No.
I I was in the city called Panorama City here in California, and I remember my dad and I looking through the window on the one floor to see the baby and then because they wouldn't let any dads in to even deliver back in the day. That was a
Oh wow.
and it can that's in our lifetime that was. So it was it's quite a few. It's already you know going through birth is already you know so stressful as it is. And then but then you have a difficult pregnancy and you're pretty young at this time. And so let's let's talk about
At
you have
32.
this baby and then you're in the pandemic and you're kind of right in the height of it, right? Because we were kind of like not
Yes.
really understanding what it was all about, right? I remember that totally going, trying to make these decisions and everybody worried about catching it or whatever else. It's so funny back then, I didn't know anybody that had COVID. Now I don't know anybody that didn't hasn't caught it and been
That
over it
didn't
now,
have it.
right? So
Absolutely.
it's such a turn of events in 2 years time. But let's talk about what it was the life-changing part and you did say one thing I want to ask about. You said you had some background in radio. Let's talk about what that is. What would you do back in the day?
Yes. So I've done professional radio from 18 years old to about 27, 28. So I did it professionally for 10 years. I spoke on FM radio, AM podcast, internet radio, and in pretty much all forms from traffic. I did traffic news, I did media and gossip, I did talk shows. I've been a co-host. I've hosted my own shows. So I
So,
have a little
ha
lengthy.
did you go through school for that, or is that just something you stumbled onto? Did you go to after high school, did you go to school to do that?
So I did. I went to college and I took up broadcast communications, but I didn't finish school because I was realizing everybody at the time that was on radio back in 2007, 2006, nobody had a degree in radio. They just got in from knowing people.
Mhm. Yeah. And so
And
it
how can I get an internship? Like, you're only a freshman, you can't get an internship. And I'm like, I can get an internship. Where can I go? So I started Googling so many internships and I landed one with MTV and I landed another with Radio One here in Philadelphia.
so that's how you got your foot in the door. What
Yes.
was it like working for the radio stations? How was that? How'd you like it?
Oh, amazing. A lot of politics. I wanted to get out because of the as much politics as it was being in it. But it was so much fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed connecting with people, meeting people where they are, being a voice for them, and giving people. I have a feel good. I feel, um,
A little bit spotty here this morning. You back with me?
yeah.
So we're still here on you there? You back with me, Melissa?
Yes.
I know we got some dead airtime, but while I'm trying to get her back, what we're talking about is Melissa out of New Jersey. She's going to be we were just talking with her. Her story is pretty awesome as far as what she went through as a mom. There she is. Now she's back.
Yes.
There you go. Now we got you.
Yes,
So
I'm sorry. The weather here is
yeah, you told me the weather kind of sucks. You know, that's what happens with technology. It's awesome and it sucks all at the same time. Um,
yes.
is the so I wanted you were talking about, kind of meeting people where you are. I read something on there about you had kind of a show about kind of like real talk. It's almost similar to what I do. It's kind of raw. You were saying that you wanted to give voice to people that that needed it. And so does that mean you had your own show or were you in segments and part of another show? How did that look?
Yes. So for me, early on, I was a co-host on a show, and I did nights and I did overnights for a few years. I would say about 5 years. I did overnights, and then I got my own show during the day,
Mm.
and that only lasted about 2 to 3 years because they wanted a bigger name. And then I went back to overnights and doing nights on radio.
Yeah, that's it's interesting to me. So you liked being on the mic is what you did. Is that correct? Did you do any
Yes.
other shows? Have you ever any podcast of your own, or did you look in that direction? And are you still in that world right now?
Yes. So when I got out of radio, and to me, I was like, I'm going to go live a regular life. And I got into law. I don't know what made me get into law, but I got into law. And as a creative, I said, I want to get back into radio or into the podcast world, but I don't want to do it on a media side of music and gossip. I want to do it from a space of meeting people where they are at, where they feel safe enough to speak to me and to open up and to know that they're going to be seen, heard, and valued by someone else and they're not alone.
Yeah, that which is perfect. You mentioned that same thing to me yesterday, and which makes your story even more intriguing. So I wanted to get a little background of where you're at once you talked about radio, and so that when we go into what we're going to talk about, which is what's called the winning season, is that's kind of your thing that you have, and you've got shirts out with it and everything else now. So let's talk about what that looks like and what's happened, what changed in your life to have this winning season. So I believe that we have a lot of people out here that's going to enjoy this story.
Yes, absolutely. So, in the while I was pregnant, during my pregnancy, um, I wanted to figure out, what do I do to get to reach people? Something came to me called Unplug the Script. It was really loud, just came up to me. And I said, that's going to be my podcast. My podcast is going to be Unplug the Script. I want people to unplug. I want people to have real conversations and know that there are real experiences going on. I did not know that I would then be encountering my own unplugged segment of my life. And I didn't know I would then be using that um, to step into my winning season. So right
Mm,
after I had my son, the pandemic is full blown out. I don't leave the house, especially with a newborn. I don't go anywhere. The relationship with me and my son's father, just, we couldn't get along to get along. That is the best way to say it. We
mhm,
tried so many times to just get along, but we couldn't. And it was no rhyme or reason to either one of our faults. Now looking back, it was just, we didn't know each other. We're building a relationship as we're becoming new parents. And two, he is focused on the money aspect and the household aspect, where I needed both. I needed him to pay attention to me as I'm taking care of a newborn. So for months, dead on end, it went on for about the first year of my son's life. We couldn't get along whatsoever. And that was okay. Now at this point, I got to my son was about 7 or 8 months. And it was our last argument of saying, okay, like, to me, I was like, I don't even think you like me anymore. I don't think you like me. And we got into an argument, and I'm rocking my son back to sleep. It was about 10 or 11 p.m. The rain was so loud. It actually felt like rain was inside of our household. But
mm,
that was just the shower that was on. But it was so heavy. Like, that's how heavy the environment was. And I'm
mm,
sitting there, I'm rocking my son to sleep, and I'm crying and I'm pouring out my heart to my son. And I said, you would never see me like this again, because I would never be this broke or broken. And I looked at him and I said, I'm going to win. And I'm going to win for you, but importantly for me. Because in order for you to get the best of me, I got to give the best of me. I spent the last year and a half unfulfilled emotionally, because nobody around me was seeing me, hearing me the way I needed them to. But I also wasn't doing that for myself. And
mm,
you lose that as a new mom. You lose your identity, and it's not talked about enough. You lose your identity because you're this little person's world. They rely on you. I pumped for 9 months straight. So I pumped every 2 hours for 9 months.
mm,
So there was no time for me. And the little bit of time that I did have for me, I thought I was pouring into myself, but it really wasn't deliberate and intentional. And I told my son, who again is about 8 months, I said, when your first birthday comes, I'm going to have a winning season. And I realized we have a season of life. That's all we have. We're only here for a season of our life. We don't know how long that is. And winning, when you think about winning, you think about athletes who are really good. You think about teams who are really good. They're intentional about winning. So I put those two together and said, I'm going to live an intentional life. I'm going to have a winning season life from here on out after he turned one, which was April 1st, 2021.
I think that yeah, so I think that's really important. My even my instructor, we talk about winning as it is, right? Winning is a season and winning on purpose. Okay. Matter of fact, I was just telling students yesterday this same type of mentality of um, don't play not to lose. You got to
Yeah.
play to win and win on purpose.
Yes.
Because yeah, that's what I saw even yesterday on the mat. Somebody gets ahead a little bit on points, and then they get conservative and they don't go for it anymore. So they're not winning on purpose anymore. They're just there to not lose, and that's just not a way to do life. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I think that is I think that's great. Well, those are some things that you have to start thinking as you're right about this. Are you a single parent at this time?
Yes, for the most part, yes.
Right. So for the most part, it's just you, and I told that you and we chew the same dirt on that. I was a single dad also. I was a single dad that raised the kids. You know what I mean? They were with me like more full time. Um, a unique situation for a dad, but I'll tell you this: yeah, just like it forced you to kind of have a different outlook on because somebody else is relying on you. Um,
Mhm.
the single dad thing is what made me such a good dad. Not that things weren't difficult because you have a
Yes.
son, right? And how I raised my sons, my daughter is the one that kind of softened me. But then again, she's a pretty tough chick because she was raised with brothers and a dad. You know what
Right.
I mean? But
Yes.
she's a pretty tough uh, girl as far as that goes. So I can understand that mindset of you know not having time to yourself. There is no time to yourself, man. I'm gonna give you. Let me give you a hint. When they're adults, there's still no time to yourself because then you worry about other things and things just get more expensive. So.
Yes.
When they say that parenting is lifelong, it is definitely lifelong. But on the same token, I wouldn't change anything in that
Oh, that's beautiful.
in the relationship I had or being a dad. It just made me become a much better father because
Mm,
just like you, we didn't have a choice. We're going to have
right.
to, we can fold up and we can fold up and feel sorry for ourselves, or we can get up and get to work. And so I sympathize and I applaud all at the same time with what you're doing
Oh,
because
thank
I've
you.
been there, done that.
Likewise.
So so the winning season comes along and this is what you've decided. So you decided to go on uh, and and have this, and now you have this mindset, and you know you got merch that has the same saying on it, and it's like anything else, right? There's no dream comes something until you write it down, and then now you're printing shirts with it. So it stares at you every single day, and then when the days get weak and you see the shirt, matter of fact, I think you're wearing one of those shirts today.
I
If I see it
am.
right, yeah, I see when you see it.
Yes.
See, that's great. And so do you discuss that? Do you have a podcast now that is even sharing this more? Do you cater to um uh do you like to empower women, or is it across the board for everyone, or how does that work for you in what your message as you're trying to do?
Yes. So initially, when I created it for me because I needed a pep talk to myself. And I needed to always have a full cup. I didn't want to have half cups. I didn't want to have an empty cup because at the end of the day, who's going to pour into me when I have nothing left to give? And I have I have a 2-year old who is from sun up to sundown, wants to climb on clouds. So I need to have a full cup. But as I was creating this, I honestly thought that I would go and start speaking to women and empower women and young girls for self love and for self confidence because that's where a lot of winning happens. Winning happens within yourself. When you have the self love, the self confidence, the self discipline, that's when you really start to win, and everything else, the accolades that comes with life, they're just gonna come so natural to you. It's gonna feel like it all happened all suddenly. So as I'm putting this out on social media, the majority of people were young girls and men
Mm,
saying, I don't have enough of me to give to anyone else. And I said, wow, men are actually talking about this now. And what do I say? Because I am a woman going through this and I feel this way. And I just realized I had to bring my message to everybody from young kids to adults, men and women. That yes, no matter what, you deserve a full cup. You deserve to have a winning season life. You deserve to pour into you mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally because it's no longer from a selfish state. We can no longer say, oh, I'm going to do it for me. I'm going to do it for me. No, you do it for you because you have to. You need to. So
mhm.
everybody else around you can get the best of you as well. So
Yeah,
I,
let me ask you this question before
yes,
you get your next thought. So when you say that you had men talking to you, because this is interesting to me, because first of all, men don't talk. They barely
yes,
talk to each other, let alone uh, let alone a female. Now,
yeah,
I can tell you this just for a fact. I just know how guys think, and I was not. eh, I definitely didn't talk to people. I can tell you that. I just kind of rolled up my sleeves and went to work, and I want to hear from you on this particular thing. Just because you brought up men, because I speak about this quite often, because I do have a heart for men,
hmm,
because let me just give you this perfect example of how little men in the society think that men are thought of as important. We talk about this all the time, that when it comes to Mother's Day, it's close to Christmas is the most celebrated day. Father's Day, it's hardly celebrated at all. As a matter of fact, even at church, when I went to church on Father's Day, I'll never forget this. This is almost every year too. The first thing out of the preacher's mouth will be, I know a lot of you have an estranged relationship with your father. Now, it's not said that about your mom. It's only said about dads, right? It's only said about
hmm,
men, right? And I'm just like, once again, it's just like you just pounding the men down. You know what I mean? This is why they don't talk. They're kind of like whipped puppy dogs. We just kind of go in the show, listen to it, and carry on and go. And so for you to hear that, um, men have reached out to you, that it very much intrigues me, because that is so against the norm. And so tell me how you talk to a man. What do you say to him?
I just talk to him regularly. I have two older brothers. Well, I have two older brothers and I have a younger brother. So I'm very sensitive to men. Um, for the simple fact that a lot of men don't believe they are seen, heard, and valued. They don't believe they are important in their household other than being a provider. So for
Mm,
me, I try to just tell them, no, you are more than that. You are what you honestly think you are, and two, you're more than that because God told you so. Like I'm very spiritual. So I try to always come to them. I come to them in a sense of calmness, a sense of softness, because a lot of men who have been coming to me and venting and opening up, which I absolutely adore, a lot of them have tough relationships either with their significant other right now or with their mother. And that says a lot.
interesting. That's to me, that's really interesting too. That has been brought up, that they have a relate, and their significant others. I can just tell you this from most men, and I'm kind of a type A type of man, right? I'm that
Hmm.
alpha. I'm definitely not a beta. I can tell you that. And uh, and so I'm just from our standpoint. When I hear, it's very hard. Men will do anything when they feel appreciated and respected. I can just tell you that two things. If you appreciate what they do and you
Mm-hmm.
respect them, I'm telling you, they'll take a bullet for you. But they are so underappreciated in this kind of society, that it's
Yes.
almost like our role has been and then you got to raise men. I do anyway. I have to raise men in this environment, and I have to tell my boys, this is how you're going to be strong in this environment, because basically you're nothing but a piece of dirt. And you know uh, and it's always, you go girl, or the when it's it,
Yes.
you don't hear none of that anymore. And so it is super. And this little portion that you talked about, that you got men reaching out to you, and you can make them feel have some kind of value. I am telling you that it can be a game changer, for
Wow.
that, for sure. You know what I mean? Even those that are listening now that have, I can just tell you from a man's point of view, I can just tell you what they always think it's the sex and it's all that. And it is just not. It is, a man likes to feel appreciated, and they like to feel respected. And if they have those two things, I am telling you,
Yes.
he will kill everybody in a room for you. Okay, if that's how it is.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And it's the men that are speaking to me, they're coming from a place of like, I want to work out 5 days a week, but I can only do 30 minutes to, 10 minutes. Like, they can't do much. I want to read a book, but I can't do much because somebody is always needing me. And I tell them, well, you're no good for their needs if you're not good to your own. How
mm,
can you show up as the the spouse, the partner, and to any capacity, the good worker, a father, if you're not good to yourself? And we have to come and recognize that men hold the same amount of value, just as a mother, just as a person in this world. That it's okay to appreciate them, like you said. It's okay to do for them, so they know that they're not alone. Because the world's tough. As a man, you go out there, it's tough. I don't know personally, but I do have a father and I have brothers. And now
mhm,
uh I'm raising up a son who is just not my son. He's going to be somebody's husband. He may be somebody's father. He's going to be somebody's worker or boss. He's going to be something else other than my son.
right.
So when I talk to these men, I try to deliver it from the aspect of how I pour into my son.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's just an awesome message. And I'll be a champion of you for that. You know what I mean? Because
Oh,
it's a
thank
breath of
you.
fresh air to hear. I'm just telling you. Um, I speak extensively on this because I was a single dad. And if you hear divorce, usually dads are the deadbeat dads, right? Or the weekend
Mhm.
fathers and the weekend whatever. And you can put that to bed, because that was not me. You know what I mean? I was in it to win it all through. I'm the one that they threw up on. I'm the one that cleaned up after them. I took them to school. I did it all. So, you know, and my influence of men close to me and my age that have done that same thing, we've all had that same thing. So I champion that, that you do
Yeah.
that, and I applaud you for giving men some kind of something else besides grief. And so that's just that's a positive. That's to me for sure. Well, let's talk about the females then. So do you have young moms that come to you that has resonated this same story? Because here's what I can tell you this, okay? Even though I champion for the women, I have been doing martial arts and teaching for a very long time, right? For over 35 years I've had a business doing this, right?
Mhm.
And we get all kinds of people that come in here, right? So their kids are either they need a little more discipline, or they need to have a lot of confidence. They don't have confidence in themselves. And you know, even young teenagers, I that I just had, young teenagers, 15 to 18, and me sitting just chit chatting with them and talking and saying, "Hey, tell me what it's like to be in school. How is that for you?" And And just to listen to them, like, you know what, Mr. Cox, we just don't have a voice. If we are not being taught, we are being in a grown-up word, indoctrinated, right? This is what you need to
Yes.
think, this is what you need to do. And so they don't even have a voice. Now, so imagine that a young female or male where you don't really have a voice and you're really not, you're being told what to think and how to think and what to do, which is pretty intense as it is. And in my world, I champion single dads anyway, but I'm going to tell you something. Single moms have the hardest time ever. I have watched it for years. I've never had as hard being a single dad as I have watched almost every one of my single moms,
Wow.
especially when you got some males, right? You got some boys that you're raising. And the I don't care what anybody says, we're built a little bit different. And I see them just get as their kids get a little bit older, how they just kind of run over their mom. And their moms are very frustrated because they're nurturing and this is their nature, and they
Mhm.
don't have that strong, like myself, even my own children, right? When they were young and they give their mom a little bit of attitude and stuff like that when they were with her, they wouldn't think twice about doing that to me. You know what I mean? There's just no way, right? And I remember them coming home. I said, "You open your mouth up like that to me, it's going to be a whole different ball game. I'm going to tell you for a fact." And you just don't have that balance, right? And so,
Mhm.
uh, I feel for them all the time. I've hugged very many single moms in tears, and I don't know what to do. And they bring them to the studio and to try and have that influence over them. And so I applaud as a single mom what you do. I'd like to know what you do to these young women that are coming to you, or your age women that are struggling with the same thing, with this single mom thing. How does that go about? How do you help them have that winning season you talk about?
Yes, and I mean, you are incredible. You are truly incredible. I have to give you your flowers now. I am a person you cannot wait. You give the person their flowers now. So I'm giving you your flowers now,
Yeah.
Mark.
Well, I
You
appreciate that.
deserve it. You
Yeah.
truly, truly deserve it.
Mm, mm,
For for the women that come to me, because I'm in it, right? I'm not, my son's not 18, he's not in his 30s. I am 35 and I have a 2-year-old. So I am in it. And I tell them that you are too special not to win. Whatever winning feels like and looks like for you. And a lot of times women are like, well, I want the big house and I want the family. But besides all that, right? Because you can get that on your own. You don't need to be with someone to get that.
correct.
You
Mm,
need to fill yourself up. What do you like to do? The littlest things I tell them, what do you like to do? What's going to bring you joy? The biggest thing is having joy. Happiness is an illusion because when something doesn't go wrong, go right, you're no longer happy. You have to find joy. So I try to tell women, find the joy in your life outside of your children. Even if you don't have kids, find the joy in your life that if it was here today and gone tomorrow, at least you have a great moment in memory of it. And that's what they tell me. They'll come back to me and be like, you know what, I did something I've never done before. And I'm like, that's wonderful. Because you have to get in a space of thinking in this moment, what can bring me joy? As a
yeah.
mother, as a woman, what can bring me joy?
What did you find for yourself when you asked that question of yourself? So what did you do?
So for me, a lot of people are into this now, but it's journaling.
Hmm.
I- So the best way for me, I took in
You
a
with You're almost there. You're breaking up just a little bit. We're
Okay.
st- I s- as we wait for Melissa to come back on. I believe, Melissa, if you can hear me, I believe what you said is you are you are journaling is what you do, and I personally I find that to be I hear that quite a bit. I don't know about you guys. Are you back with me there, Melissa? I, I had heard that. I think that we'll wait for a second. Melissa will be back in a second, guys. And she just got some bad thing. Here she is. She's back. There she is. Um, I think that what I heard her say is that she is journaling on her stuff. And I don't know about you guys that are listening in the audience or not, but I always tell myself I'm going to journal. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to write all this stuff down. And then guess what? I never did it. You know what I mean? I never. There you go. Are you back?
Yes, yes,
Yeah, it's not a problem. So I think I was talking to the audience right while you were saying. I think what I heard you say is that one of the things that brought you joy is journaling. Is that what you said?
yes. So
Yes. And go ahead.
oh no, I'm sorry. I tried to connect with me the best way possible because I don't have a lot of time to myself. So
Hmm.
for me, I try to just connect to me. Um, and that's one of the best ways for me is journaling. I usually journal probably 2 to 3 times out of the day. And it's just my thoughts or anything that I come up with, but I get everything out of my head and out of my heart and onto paper.
Yeah, I think that that's great. Now, have you written a book or not?
I haven't. I need to.
You need to do that. You need to do that. I cannot tell you because I'm in the middle of mine right now,
Yes.
and you probably already have a leg up being in the radio, and then you journal and stuff like that. That's why I have Abigail because she kind of this is how we do. We meet like this, and we go over my stories, and she kind of puts them down on paper for me. After we talk about it, so it's great. But you've got something here that should be told. Um, and that you only you can tell your story, and
Yes.
being a young the young millennial that you are, that there's different mindsets and different things that happen. And that journaling, I was just telling the audience too when you we're waiting for you, that this is something I always tell myself I'm going to do, and then I just don't have enough discipline to do it. And I'm in nothing but a discipline thing, teaching martial arts, and I cannot discipline myself to take a pen out and journal stuff down. You know what I mean? I just don't, I don't know why. I just don't do it. But here's the thing, right? At least you still have something in writing. If the reason I did the book, the reason I did podcasting was just to have something that my kids can look back on when I'm not here and say, this is how my dad was. This was his
Wow.
thoughts, right? And to have something for them to look back on, and my great grandkids that I'll never meet, that they get to see this is what my grandfather was, this is what he did, and to make that difference. And then I decided I got to write this book, because if I don't do it, if it's not my words, it's never going to come out. And so I think, and I encourage you, now that I'm in that process, that you need to do that, especially if you journal. And
I certainly
so
will.
yeah, I think and I think what an awesome name, right? The winning season for a book, right?
Yes.
And you got your son's face on that, on the cover. It's, I don't know. It's just something
Yes.
that I would encourage you to think about and work towards. And we got plenty of people in the CLA and stuff around here that can help you if that's something you plan to do. But I want to talk about one more thing that you went in your process. You spoke to me yesterday about just having some depression postpartum. I want to know how did you bring yourself out of that, and how do you encourage other women to deal with that part of it? I want to ask you that question.
Yes. So I didn't know much about postpartum depression. I didn't even know that I was in it because it's not talked about, especially in the Hispanic world. Um, the moments that I was crying, and even though it was added on stress from the relationship problems and the pandemic, and I wasn't working, um, I didn't know what to do with my emotions. I didn't know what to do with me mentally,
Mm.
and it got sad for me. It made me meet me. That I would say that I finally met me. I couldn't hide from me. I couldn't run from me. especially having a newborn. I said, okay, well, there's no dodging me anymore. I have to meet me. And when people are around you and calling you sensitive and you cry too much and you shouldn't be crying about that, you start to question yourself. And I'm like, well, maybe there's something really wrong with me. But again, it wasn't until my son was about 8 to 9 months, and I was just like, I got tired of feeling like this. Like, what is wrong with me? So I started going to therapy. I believe in therapy. I believe in, if you can't figure it out, have somebody help figure it out with you.
Mhm.
And that's with anything. But really with postpartum, it was more of a sense of, I don't want to be in this forever. I've heard stories of women after I started researching and talking to other women. People are like, oh, I had postpartum for 3 to 4 years after my child was born. And I said, well, I don't want to be that way. So again, one of the great helps was journaling. That's how I got into journaling. I was always into, I shouldn't say that. I always was into journaling, but I got more in depth with journaling going through postpartum because I just wanted to get everything out. There should be nothing left inside of you at the end of the day. You should always get it out.
So how did you overcome that? Did you make a decision and say, I'm over this and I'm just going to move on? Or uh, was it getting tools through counseling that did it?
No, no. So counsel therapy was just there for me to just vent, really.
Uh
It
huh.
was for me to vent. But it was me intentionally pouring into myself, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Physically, I would work out 4 days out of the week. I would just get me to the point where, like, okay, I feel good. I feel good. Like, it took time. Honestly, it took to my son was almost 2 recently to be like, I feel my best now. I feel okay. But it was me being intentional. It was me being deliberate how I pour into myself. The things that I was watching, the things I was listening to, that became very intentional because a lot of stuff goes into your subconscious. And when you don't have the support, I didn't think I had the support emotionally from the people around me. So when you don't have the support, subconsciously everything goes into you. So instead of saying, okay, I'm going to talk to you today, I'm not going to talk to you today, I avoided people until I felt better.
So I'm going to ask you this question too now because we talked a little bit about this yesterday about how your mom would tell you you need to suck it up, Buttercup, basically, right?
Yes.
Was that she's totally my people, I'm telling you right now, right? Because I would totally say something like she's talking about, but um because you know having this is just me, right? And I have some children that have little bits of depression here and there. And even though I'm this alpha male, right? And I'm just like, whatever, man, you're just gonna have to get over it. I don't know what to tell you, man. And I would work out. Now, I don't know about you, but when I get to get in there and hit some iron and I can hear the iron clang, and sometimes I call it powerlifting and prayer, and as I put on the gospel type music and I
I
listen and
love that.
and I lift and it's a praying and lifting time. And there's been times too, right? I'm kind of lifting, you got tears in your eyes because I'm so freaking angry, right? And I'm
Yes.
like, and this is how I get my emotions out so I don't kill somebody. Uh, and so exercise has always been a major part of that for me. It's kind of release. And but did this because I listened to it because here's what my one boy said to me one day. He goes, "Dad, this whole this rah thing that you do, that doesn't get to me." I'm like, "Are you in what is wrong with you?" Right? I'm like, "What is wrong with your mentality, bro?" And I said, "How can you just need to, I mean, life is gonna sock you in the gut every time. Get up, shut your mouth, and sock back. Let's go." Did that help you or did that not help you? Because it doesn't
So
seem to.
no, for me, it did not help me. I'm just not that person. And that's okay. That is okay. And that's
That's
what
what
parents have to realize, that who you are is not who your children are. Like, we're just not that person, especially us millennials. We're like, in Gen Z, we're like, no, like that works for you. That does not work for me.
I'm
So you
listening to
gonna do
music that's just like, "Are you gonna be a champion? Are you gonna get up? You gonna get on it?" And I'm just like, "Come on!" And he's like, "Nah, Dad, that just ain't." I'm like, "Oh my goodness, bro." That's why I say to him all the time, "You're so millennial. It drives me crazy." It's
yes. And I'll never forget, there was this moment I had just moved in back into my mom's house. My son was about 4 months old. I moved in back with my mom, and it was like a nice sunny day, and I was playing gospel music in the morning. That's what I do. I play gospel music in the morning. And as I'm feeding my son, I start crying because I'm listening to the words of the gospel song. And I'm like, oh my God, this is touching me. My mom comes out. She was like, are you seriously crying again? You're making yourself cry. I was like, no, mom, I'm not making myself cry. This is a beautiful song. You should listen to it. And she told me right then and there, she was like, listen, you're not the first, you're not the last. If I could do it, you could do it. And I'm like, okay, great for you. That worked for you. But I'm going to do I think that's going to work for me. And you can guide me and help me, but I'm not going to do what you did. Like, we're just two different people. but
that's so funny.
But I say that to say, a lot of who your generation is, my mom's generation, a lot of who you guys are is honestly out of survival mode. And for us, it's like, okay, well, we have a lot more options now, but we want to, honestly, us millennials and Gen Z, we want to be more connected to ourselves more than anything. We don't want to be connected to a job that takes away from us. We don't really want to connect to the outside world that takes so much from us and not giving us nothing back.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. Um, I even my oldest boy have had. Now he's watched my mistakes for sure, but he's also watched my drive. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, you're either going to get along. I'm a freight train. Either get on and take the ride, or I'm gonna run you over. That's just the way it's going to be. And I compete that way. That's how I was when
Hmm.
I competed. That's how I was in business. And um, you know, on the same time, I have a huge heart. You know what I mean? I'd give the shirt off my back to somebody that needed it. That's
Hmm.
just who I am. You know what I mean? It's just kind of how I was. So I hope that there can be I think that's what's really hard. And when I speak with you and when I'm listening to how do you feel about that, you're like, no, that ain't me. And I'm like, oh my god, so my son, geez, Louise, and one of my sons is a lot like me, right? He's the young go getter, gusto and everything else, and driven and being the best salesman he can be. You know what I mean? He's just he's a little carbon copy of me, um,
Oh,
and so listening to what you say is, and that's the other thing is to work with millennials is rough, right? It is like it has tested my leadership abilities beyond what I could do. So speaking to somebody in the realm, it helps me kind of, how do I put myself where they're at? Because right, the generation, right, the millennial generation uh has you're just different. I didn't have, matter of fact, we had pagers and that's it. We didn't have to talk to people all the time. It was awesome, right? If I didn't want to call you back, I ain't calling you back. And we didn't have all this information at our fingertips on our phone and spending the screen time that we do. We had to scratch and bite and talk and do things. But there's something to be said to watch these young millennials and watch these young kids know how to navigate social media, even for businesses. You have to harness what they know and be able to use that and to utilize them, because I'm sure you hear it all the time, right? Millennials. That's what that's what you hear.
Yes, yes.
And so I was like, I mean, I say it, I say it myself. I'm like there has to be emerging. Like I went and watched my son because my one son that does this, he's 23, right?
Mhm,
And I went to work. He works at Guitar Center, and I went to watch him a little bit at work. I wanted to see how he interacts. Why is he the top sales guy? What does he do? And most millennials, they don't even greet you when you come into a store. It drives me crazy, right?
oh my goodness.
And I can't stand it. And or they like to text message. I said, you have I have about 3 text messages in me. Don't text me. Okay, yes, I see. And I said, but at number 3, I'm done with you. Pick up the phone and call me on the phone so we can have a discussion. I'm not doing any. I'm over it. And so I went and watched him, and he everybody that came in, he's like, "Hey, how you guys doing?" And he would greet them, and he would say, "Hey, my name's Daniel." And he goes, "Hey," if he's with a busy, he goes, "I know I'm busy right now. I'm not ignoring you. I'll get right with you."
Mhm,
Validated the person, perfect sales stuff, right? And then he would remember people's names. I used to tell my sons all the time, if you can remember somebody's name, if you can say their name 3 times and you remember it, you're going to have a connection with them. I guarantee it. And I said, I've used this as a teacher forever. And then I watched him, and he goes, and he'll say, "Okay, Greg, I'm back. How can I help you? And what kind of guitar are you looking for? Are you excited about doing music?" And asking the questions that he needs to ask. And he just, he was able to connect. And I told him, I said, "You'll be able to sell anything in life, son. You could sell real estate. You could sell airplanes. You just have
mhm.
that. You have a gift." Um, but I don't see that for a lot of millennials. Why do you think that is?
I think oh, I'm not that way. That I'm not. Because I love connecting with people. But I think a lot for millennials and Gen Z is, you're only gonna get out of me what I'm here for. I'm here to serve you, and that's it. Like I
Oh.
get paid to serve. I'm not gonna do any more than than needed. Um,
You
and
see, that's why I say millennials.
a lot of them do. They'll just, you're only gonna get from me what is needed out of this 6 to 8 hour day. That's all.
I'm so not that. When I worked, I tell my kids, I said, I will outdo everybody in the room, and I will
Yes.
set new standards. That's just how I'm going to be. And if
Mhm.
either follow along or get off the ship, I don't know what to tell you. And I hear the same thing. I don't know, Dad. We're just kind of, I'm trying to just get. I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I can't. I don't even know what to say to it, man. I just want to. What's it's
It's the one thing, and I think this is very true for a lot of millennials and Gen Z, is a lot of their peace, they try to protect it. They like if I feel a disturbance in my peace at any given time, I don't want any parts. So if I'm at work and I'm with a customer, I'm gonna deal with one thing at a time. Not me personally, but that's why a lot of them are. When I was working in the law firm, a lot of people, the kids in the law firm who were millennials, they would be like, "Okay, I'm working on a project right now, and I'll get to that project whenever I can." And lawyers are like, "No, you got to do it right now. Like, we need this is a timely thing." We guys are like, "Well, okay, well then I'm not going to do this project." Like it was like it's like if you want A, you're gonna get A. If you want B, you're gonna get, but you're not gonna get A and B in the same time.
Oh, man. This is just
It's
worth
a
the whole
lot.
podcast. This is worth the whole podcast right here.
It's a lot.
This is worth the whole podcast right here. This has been super eye-opening for me. You know what I mean?
Like,
This was uh because I am just what you think that your mom is. I am just that guy. You know what I mean? And so it's this has been awesome for me to get some other insight. This is how I learn from my guests right here. This kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Um, but on the same token, that it just shows to prove that whatever generation, because look at the generation even right before me, right? I remember because it would be my great grandparents that went through a depression,
Mhm.
and I mean recycling, canning, all that kind of stuff was on the forefront of what they did because there is no way they are going to get caught again with that. And I think this pandemic is is kind of like what that is today because even now, right, when they're going to try and shove monkeypox down our throat next, people are like, no, I'm not just no, or the forcing of, I don't want to get into political stuff because I just don't do that. But I remember my son having to get a booster shot or he can't go to college. And I'm like, man, what's the deal with that? I said, you already got vaccinated. You already had it.
Wow.
You already had it. I said, you're already immune because you vax, then you have it. Then, and if you don't do it, you don't get to go to school. I'm like, oh my gosh, uh, uh, you know, and I see the conformity. I told him, I said, my generation would tell him to stick it where the sun don't shine. I can tell you that.
Mhm.
Instead of just, Dad, it makes it easier. Mm-mm. And so, just a difference in as we get older and stuff like that. Because this actually helped me today. Listening to you speak because we see my oldest boy is going to be 30. So, uh, and I don't know. I guess he would be a millennial, huh?
Yes.
You know what? I'm gonna call him that today, just because we had this phone call, because he's not gonna like that. I'm not a millennial, Dad. I'm not. I work harder
What
than
is
them. That's what
oh,
he's always saying that. I work harder than they do, Dad. What are you talking about? Stop calling me millennial. And and I said, "Well, when you work like I work, then you can call yourself not a millennial." And he goes, "I'm not doing that." This is a conversation. I watch what you did, Dad. I'm going to spend time with my wife. I'm going to spend time on vacation, stuff that you never did. And I said, "All right, I got to give you that, son.
oh my goodness.
I got to give him that." And I told Mikey, I said, "You're right." I said, "I did do all that." I said, I said, I did sacrifice a lot of stuff to work, but this was great, Melissa. I really enjoyed this
Likewise.
podcast, man. It was so fun to get to know you a little bit more. So I'll let you know. So you're in New Jersey now. I think, is it New Jersey we're going to be in, and that I have to find out where we're going to be. I'll ask Emilio. Do you know Emilio? Have you met him at all?
Yes. He
Yeah.
actually met my son. We did a coffee. We had coffee together.
Oh, actual coffee.
Yeah, we had actual coffee together, and my
Oh,
son was like just loved him. Just was like all over him. Was like, be my friend.
yeah, that's good. So when I come out, we'll connect. Bring your son.
Absolutely.
We'll have some coffee, and it'll be fun. I'm the Pied Piper with kids. That's my specialty, is teaching
Mm,
children, and I have a real heart for kids. I always have, and um, so I'll get together with you. We'll keep posted,
absolutely.
and
Yes.
as a
Let me
matter
know all the tricks for boys, whatever, you know. Give me all the tips and tricks. I need them all.
I'm gonna tell you something. There's nothing like a young boy that loves his mom, though. I'm gonna tell you that for a fact. It's the
Oh,
weirdest
wow.
thing, right? My daughter, I can't find more love than my daughter has for me. But I'm
Hmm.
gonna tell you that a little boy does love their mom. There's some,
Yes.
and luckily for me, and my mom is still alive. So my mom and dad are still alive,
God
and
bless
so
them.
I get to. My parents were super young. You want to talk about a different generation? They were 18 and 16 when they were married, and they're still married today.
Bless
And
them.
my dad still brings mama flowers and holds hands with her while they watch movies on the couch. That's what I
Oh
get.
my
That's what it.
goodness.
Yep. So that's just
My
how
heart.
they are. You know what I mean? My mom will make sure that she is all dressed up when my dad comes home from it doesn't I don't care if he goes out. So my dad's what, 80, he's 81 now. And he still goes out and does his thing and he carves and then mom, that house will always be perfect. And my mom will be dressed to the nines for my dad every time he comes home. It's just her generation. It's just what she's always
That is
done.
so beautiful.
But she's so awesome. And so
Wow.
it's this has been good. So I look forward to meeting you. So yeah, we'll have some more chats, man. We'll get on CLA and we'll do some of these virtual deals and I'll check in on you and see how you're doing. And so here's what happens
Yes,
here. So
likewise.
you'll be able to share this. This is live, so it's already on YouTube, already recorded. And then but at the end of the day, I will I wrote down one of the ones that kind of glitched. 1703. I'll be able to kind of edit that part of it out. And then we'll have I have an audio podcast. And once I drop all this, I'll edit it in the next day or two. It'll be audio podcast. So you can also share the audio side of it. So when people are driving, they can hear it. And it'll be on my website and they can reach out to you and go from there. Sound good?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to up my game now. I gotta learn about the editing and all that. I just
Yeah.
post.
Yeah. Well, if I can write the numbers down, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's funny. That's what my one son does. He's a sound engineer. That's what he kind of went to school for. And he's the one that kind of helps me get along. He's the one that tells me all the time, Dad, I'm not into the rah-rah thing like you are. I'm like, whatever, bro. I said,
I
but
love that.
he's sharp as a tack when it comes with this stuff. So we'll get this thing edited out. And then I don't know if you have your podcast or if you have something like that. I'll make sure that anything else you want added to that bio where they can just send that to me, direct message or email me, and I will make sure I add everything in. It'll be on my, I don't know if you've been to my website yet. It's called markcox.com.
Yes.
And you'll be up there and you're forever. And then whatever else you want me to put out there, I'll make sure that I take care of you and so people can you get directed there. Sound good?
Oh my goodness, thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate this and I enjoyed the conversation and the connection. It was so much needed. Thank
Yeah,
you so
good.
much.
You're welcome. So proud of you, man. Keep it up, and
Thank you.
you got some fun years ahead of you. Trust me. You,
I look
you know,
forward to them. I just turned 35 last week, so I'm like, I'm ready.
yeah, yeah.
I'm
I
ready.
told all my kids, I said, I don't even think I was such a knothead all the way up until 26 years old. I was always working and stuff like that, but I just didn't have my stuff together until I was a little bit older. But you're ahead of the game, so you're going to be good to go.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much. I
all right.
appreciate it. Yes.
Yes, ma'am, Melissa. Appreciate it, man. Have an awesome day. Okay.
You too. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.